morning and welcome back to the Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates morning show, the one and only youth morning show in Tobago. And this morning we are chatting with the newly appointed Deputy Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary in the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, Dr. Faith B. Israel. A bit of tongue-tie there this morning, Dr. B. Israel. Not doing very much justice to your new appointment. I do apologize for that. There's too many deputies and being happening in this space.
That's all right. So let's just go with Dr. Faith.
Dr. Faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that'll be easier for now, Dr. Faith. So I want to begin by asking you: Is your new appointment legitimate? Given that we would have seen just a day, or well, not even a day, a couple hours before your appointment, we saw a petition before the court by Crystal Fordicey, I don't know who the person is, threatening to file an injunction on the proceedings. So given that, is your new appointment legitimate?
Well, you're going really, really fast into it and over the deep end, Dwayne. Well, when we saw the letter dead of the night, the evening before, we thought, okay, well, I guess it's just one more thing, a never-ending story kind of situation. But we were very clear that we've gotten wise counsel. We were also very clear that the president or the office of the president knew what they were doing, and that if there was any issue, the office of the president would let us know very clearly that there is an issue with this. And therefore, we would not have been invited to come down to President's house to do the swearing in.
Right.
So the fact that we did the swearing in, the office of the president, of course, the president is on leave. She is out at the state funeral.
And the acting president,
Senator 𝐁.𝐘𝐢𝐬𝐫𝐚𝐞𝐥.
Yeah. She's also a high-ranking judge in the court as well.
Exactly.
And interestingly, our actual president is also I think she was also a high-ranking judge as well.
So I think that the dots have the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. We have both signatures on the oath of office. So I think I am DCS.
All right. We'll take that this morning. Right, but did you anticipate in any site at all, whether it be high or low side or mid side, that you would ever become Deputy Chief Secretary?
It is not something that I aspire towards. As you know, even if you chat with Mr. Duke, he would tell you when I got into politics, he had to come several times and begged me on several occasions to get into politics. It has always been something that I liked, but liked from the outside.
Right.
So my aim has always been to fix the healthcare system in Tobago. And I figured out that I needed to get into the political realm to do that. And that just means doing what I need to do to get that done. Coincidentally, I am here now. It is a role that I accept. I accept with honor because, as you know, my entire team had to agree with it. We had to actually go through and everyone had to say yes or no.
Right.
Even though that was not played out at the sitting on Monday, we actually did that beforehand to say who all you want to be DCS. And let us really, really have a conversation about it so that we are all going in on the same page. And they showed confidence in me. As a matter of fact, one of them said, well, we're not even asking how she wants it.
The bold-faced.
They bold-faced like that. So, it's one of those things. It is on my shoulder. I think that they have shown confidence in my ability to function in that new role. And I will take it on because, God gives us the capacity to do what He needs us to do.
Right. And beautiful picture there. I'm shaking the Chief Secretary's hand. He looks very happy to have you. But did in that meeting with the Executive Council, was Mr. Duke a part of that meeting? And if so, what was his reaction, his response, given that he would have publicly said that he resigned, and following suit that was his letter signed and dotted by him?
So just Mr. Duke was not a part of that Executive Council meeting. He was not a part of Executive Council meetings for some time. before.
And why is that? Is it that he was traveling? Is it that he had other engagements?
Well, of course, he has other engagements. I think you also know that most of our exec council meetings recently have been virtual, though. So there's the option to just jump on Zoom to become a part of it if you want to be a part of it. But he was not at that particular meeting where we had that conversation over the weekend about electing me as DCS. No, he wasn't.
But how do you feel about the entire occurrence? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about your appointment? How do you feel about how your appointment came into being, given that it would have come on the cusp of a public feud between the former deputy chief secretary and the chief secretary, following all this public banter?
Well, you know, I want to push back on one thing. I don't know that, because I keep hearing people saying that this was a back and forth. This was no back and forth. A public statement was made, and as the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, who is elected in that position, who has a responsibility to Tobago, Chief Secretary 𝐁𝐚𝐢𝐭𝐡 𝐁.𝐘𝐢𝐬𝐫𝐚 was forced to respond to show that we are actually doing what we have been elected to do, and we are following the law according to what is outlined in public service regulations and all of that. So there was a lot of noise in the public space, but I would push back and let everyone know that that noise was absolutely not coming from my chief secretary, who has shown stellar leadership in this time. He has shown that he is very clear on where Tobago is and where Tobago needs to be, and the kind of leadership that is needed to take us in that direction. And he held the ship together in a way that was amazing. I stand very squarely with him, and I congratulate him on his ability to do that for the Executive Council and for the entire Tobago House of Assembly. Personally, I have been looking at this, and honestly, Dwayne, I have been heartbroken. I don't know if anyone remembers that, 2016, when I got into politics, it was because I was begged. But after I decided that that is what I was going to do, we jumped in wholeheartedly. I was the third candidate to be announced for the 2017 election.
And who was the second?
The second was Melanie Rajman. The first was Mr. Duke. And even before being officially announced as a third candidate, from the time I decided that this is something that I needed to do, probably one of the sister stations that you're broadcasting on now, we were on that station. I was the voice on that station, speaking to the Tobago people every morning, from since the beginning or middle of 2016 until after that election and so forth. So I actually spent quite a lot of time building this organization that is as a family to us. So to see the last 2 weeks play out has been absolutely heartbreaking. We go to bed every night. Let me speak for myself. Went to bed every night in tears, because this is your family. This is something that you built. I mean, you get up every morning and you have to put on the brave face and do what you have to do, because that is what is required of you. But this is our family that we built, and it was very difficult. It still is very difficult to see what may seem to be a full rift, but not just, when families have their thing and it happening at home is one thing. But to see it plastered all over social media, in the public space, that is very, very difficult. And I meet people all the time who are telling me they are also very heartbroken by it. The guys on the ground who walked with us continually, they are also very, very heartbroken about what is happening.
Right. And, I wanted to ask, though, when you guys were removed as deputy political leaders, given what you just told me there in terms of it being heartbroken and so on, how did you feel? And more so, what were the grounds for your removal, given all that has happened? Because, for me and the public, yes, Mr. Duke would have said that, he felt slighted, he felt disrespected. But from where I sit honestly and objectively, I think answers need to be given as to where the disrespect laid, and the grounds for your guys' removal. So if you could comment on that at all.
So let me be clear on the policy or the constitution. The constitution of the Progressive Democratic Patriots says that, there are all of these elected positions, and we had our AGM, and there were these elected positions. But within there, and it's not just within the PDP, I think this is something in most political parties in Trinidad and Tobago, the political leader is the one who picks or appoints the deputy political leader. So these are not appointed positions. These are not elected positions. The membership did not say, yes, we elect Faith, or we elect Lisi, or we elect Farley as deputy political leaders. The political leader is the one who made that decision and then makes that pronouncement. So following that, it is then certainly within his right to then unelect us or unappoint us.
Right. But what pre-tail might be his rationale if he told you guys at all? Well, given the explanation that he said that there was disrespect, right? What was his explanation in that meeting to highlight where the disrespect?
It's one of those things where I honestly cannot say where the rationale is. There was quite a bit of rambling, my word, because I can't find another appropriate word right now. There was quite a pretty lengthy discourse on his part, as in the political leader's part, that in essence began and ended with "I don't want all ya." In essence, is what it turned out to be, and at the end of it, it was, well, okay, as the chief sec said at the end of the lengthy discourse, when it was pronounced, the chief sec thanked everyone for allowing him to be the chief sec, allowing him to be deputy political leader, allowing him to be part of the organization, and said thank you, and he exited himself, and we just exited ourselves, and it is what it is.
Wow. But is there now any discord between you and the others and Mr. Duke? I mean, given all that has happened, what is the relationship now like? Given that you would have, played a pivotal role in helping to build the party, everybody played their part.
Well, as Mr. Duke said, he party, take the party and go.
Right.
I don't know that there is anything that any of us can do one way or the other to sway that. I was asked a little earlier today whether I've actually had a conversation. I have not had a conversation with Mr. Duke since then about this. But again, this is family, this is Tobago. Mr. Duke and I went to school together. A lot of people don't even know this. We went to Roxborough Sec together way back when in secondary school. So this isn't a relationship that just started, a couple of years ago because of politics. Anything can happen. We're not sure where this is going. We want to be very, very clear, though, that what we are doing is ensuring that we steer the ship, that the Tobago House of Assembly continues to run as effectively and as efficiently as we can do it. We were elected to do that, and that is what we are going to keep doing.
To talk about the what happened, do you see Chief Secretary's Augustine silence could be taken as disrespect? And more so, do you see any merit in what Mr. Duke outlined as to why he made the decisions that he made?
I think Chief Secretary's silence shows strength. It shows that we are not willing to get into this public banter, because it should have never been a public banter. The Chief Sec very clearly outlined the process that we used as the Executive Council to provide the support to the group that went to New York. The political leader, former Deputy Chief Secretary, he was very aware of what that process was, and there was no reason for this to become a public thing. So the fact that the Chief Secretary has insisted on his silence, has insisted on not being a part of this public thing, really, really shows the strength on his part. And I think that is what Tobago has seen, and that is what Tobago is very clear on. We have a leader now who knows when to speak, and he knows when to be silent. And I think I am personally very, very courageous that we are being led by him.
Right. But listening to you, I need to ask this question. and the
I'm
viewers
almost
really...
afraid what this question
No,
is.
no need to. But are there any intention to form a new party or organization? Because it seemed to the public that the PDP is in disarray, or do you guys have any intentions at all to come together and really resolve the hurts, the misunderstandings, whatever at all?
Well, again, two things need to be very clear. Mr. Duke is correct when he says that it is his quote-unquote party, because according to the EBC rules and so forth, it is registered under his name. So, like anybody who playing cricket and you want to pick up your bat and ball and go, you can pick up your bat and ball and go. That is what seems to be happening. We in the Tobago House of Assembly, we now need to decide what we do politically next. Forming another political party is an option. We are exploring all options, and by all options, I mean all
Including...
options. Because listen, someone sent me a name of a suggested name of another political party 2 days ago, and when I saw the message, I started crying because I'm thinking, all I know is PDP. You know what I mean? That is what I know, PDP. So it is hard to even start thinking now about forming another party and so forth. But we've recognized that this is where we are. And like any other adult, you have to treat with the situation that is in front of you. And if that is what we have to do, then that is what we will do if necessary. But again, we are looking at all of the options, and we are exploring all of the options to see where we go.
Right. And I just want to, I have 3 more questions for you. Only 3. What do you make of the first video that Mr. Duke would have issued on Facebook? I mean, he was trying to plea on behalf of Tobagonians that were in need. Where, if at all, did he that you would have forced the Chief Secretary to make the statements that he made in that post-media briefing on that particular day?
I think that a lot of the information that was placed there, so yes, the group was in New York, the group was in trouble. The fact remains, though, that the Executive Council made several decisions to help the group, and we had honored those decisions. The fact also remains, though,
also,
in terms of, the fact that they were in New York means that we had started honoring them, because we were the ones that in essence got them the tickets to get to New York. So that was a big chunk of the what we had agreed to do, because as the Chief Sec said, what we've decided to do as Exec Council is not just give individuals money, but we would pay bills, and one of the bills was the cost of the plane tickets and that kind of thing. What is unfortunate, though, was the fact that the Chief Sec, even though the Executive Council had agreed on going a certain distance to help the group, hearing the plight, hearing what was happening, the Chief Sec and other members of the Executive Council had already also started doing the additional work to get them the additional support. So by the time the video was actually released, a lot of this had already been resolved or was on its way to being resolved. So there was really no need to do this kind of, dare I say, grandstanding, because the resolution was already happening. Some of it had already happened by that point. So I am not sure what was the rationale behind it, because it is very, we thought that Mr. Duke knew what was actually happening, and that he knew that some of the information that he was raising in the video was not necessarily accurate anymore at that time, because we were already resolving the issues. But, I honestly cannot speak to why he did what he did, but the fact is we are here now. It has happened, and the Chief Sec was forced to then respond to bring some clarity to what actually happened versus what was said, and that is just part of what we have to do.
I need to ask this as well. For public officers, elected public officers, or public servants who would represent the THA on a trip or abroad, does it goes against the code of conduct to mount any platform that might be partisan in any way? And is it? Do you think that that was one of the reasons why the Chief Secretary would have made decisions to review or to reconsider whatever decisions he might have been thinking of to bring before the Executive Council?
I honestly can't see why. Again, I can't see why. What we know, though, is that, within Executive Council, there is something known as individual and collective responsibility. So the Executive Council functions as a body. When we go in, we have to vote yea or nay on whatever the note is, whatever the issue is. But coming out of that, we come out of that saying, yes, the Executive Council agreed, the Executive Council did not agree. And we move as a body like that. When we on official travel, there's an expectation that you are representing the Executive Council. You are not representing yourself. You are not representing your district only. You are representing the entire Executive Council when you are speaking. So as Secretary of Health, I am not just speaking as me. I am representing the entire Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly. And when we do that, we have to be very, very wise. We have to be very cautious. We have to be very careful in what we do and what we say, because again, it's not just you. It's the entire organization that you are putting a spotlight on. So why he did a lot of what he did, maybe you need to invite him on the show.
It would be a pleasure to have Mr. Duke to hear his side of the story as well. But thank you. And finally, as DCS, what would you do differently, right? And I want to back up that question with a follow-up. How would you use your good office to do better for your division and your constituency and the wider Tobago?
So I would actually, I am not even going to go in the direction of for my constituency and for my division, because as Deputy Chief Secretary, it means I am Deputy Chief Secretary for the entire island for Tobago. What would I do different, or what would I do? I would ensure that I am here to support the Chief Secretary, because that is the main role, to support the Chief Secretary. If there is anything that he's unable to do, to definitely fall into that place. As again, the Executive Council works very closely. We make decisions together, and I would ensure that whatever decision is made by the Executive Council, whatever decision is made by the Chief Secretary, is one that is wise, is one that is based on wise information, based on good information, based on data, based on understanding where we are as an island and where we need to go. That is my pledge to Tobago, to continue working with my team, my entire team, to ensure that we get to the point. This making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet, that is our aim. That was our aim during election. That has been our aim during the last 9 months. That will continue being our aim until we get to that point.
Right. And I had this question, but the final question. Do you?
How many final questions are we having?
I'm turning off my device. I have no more questions after this. But do you believe that the Executive Council, the THA, and by extension Tobago, would have lost a gem in Mr. Duke by his resignation from the Executive Council? If you could comment on that at all.
Yeah, I think they have, because he's a fighter. I mean, we've gotten to this point because he is a fighter and because he saw that something needed to happen for Tobago. So yes, I think there are a lot of Tobagoans who absolutely love him, love what he has done. I love him. I love what he has done in terms of to get to this point. So yes, I think Tobago and Tobagoans do feel a sense of loss based on his action. But again, this is where we are. We have to figure out how to wipe our tears. We have to figure out how to move forward, and we have to figure out how to make the best of this specific situation.
All right, guys, you had it. Our newly appointed Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary for Health, Wellness and Social Protection, Dr. Faith B. Israel. I want to thank you for being here this morning with us. It was a pleasure. I know you guys enjoyed that interview. We just want to close off, and we have up next Good Morning Tobago by Candice Jackson, the exciting, the bubbly, the jolly Candice Jackson. So guys, stay tuned. I want to thank you for joining us on the Tobago Updates morning show. Enjoy the weather, and please be safe. Goodbye.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning. I wanna share my love, but it's gotta be with someone who